We have with us in the waiting room Harry Tam. Harry Tam's going to join us to talk about the gang patch law change. Harry, good evening, sir. Welcome to us.
Yeah, kia ora.
Hey, kia ora.
Kia ora,
How was
Harry.
table tennis? Did you win?
We're just having some practice. It was good.
Can I just look? I very respectfully, we made a bit of a quip at the start of the show because every time we get together, you're playing table tennis. Is it actual table tennis or is that euphemism for something else you do? Because like every time.
No, I'm behind a laptop most of the days. These days, you don't even go out for meetings.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just keeping some exercise. Sort of at my age, 67, you kind of need to keep moving. So I do it more for fitness, and I enjoy the game. Yeah.
Nice, bro. I used to play lots of table tennis when I was younger. My mum and dad met playing table tennis. That's where they met.
Oh, nice.
I want to try pickleball. That's what I'm going to go for. Pickleball's like table tennis, but you're standing on the table. It's that kind of proportions. I'm going to give that a go in the next, before Christmas probably. Cool. Okay, dude. Hey, let's talk about this because midnight tonight, gang patch ban laws come into effect. You're obviously in and around the community. What are you hearing?
Well, I think there's a mixture of views from various people, ranging from, civil disobedience and taking it to court. So there's a broad range of views from the gang community. Time will tell. We've sort of talked with the police before, and we get inconsistent responses. So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But I think there's some issues that I'm particularly concerned about in regards to the whole issue of human rights. So you will be aware that the Attorney General advised that this was going to be a huge breach of the Bill of Rights. But unfortunately, we can take it to court for judicial review, but the court can't override the government. So what the judicial review, a good outcome would be there be a judicial declaration that these laws are inconsistent with the Bill of Rights, but it won't change it. So that then brings us into another situation, for example, at an international level where it could weaken the government's position. For example, the Prime Minister was meeting with the President of China, and he raised the issue about human rights with China. So in future, the President will raise human rights about gangs in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So the position that we hold will be considerably weakened by our own policies of breaching human rights. So that then brings into another question in regards to the Bill of Rights. What uses does it have if it's not enforceable in court, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you're aware of the history of the Bill of Rights, but my understanding was brought in because New Zealand was part of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, the requirement to have human rights constitutionally. At the time, Geoffrey Palmer didn't want to go down that path of a constitution because we didn't want to ratify the treaty. So that brings into the question of what happened yesterday with the hikoi, right? So we came up with a soft option based on the Canadian model of a Bill of Rights, which is not really enforceable in court on this issue. So the way forward to avoid situations like the David Seymour bill and all the rest of it, we need to actually have a constitution. So I would certainly think that this is a good time for that discussion, given these two things happening simultaneously under a coalition government that's of the right wing. So I think it's a good time to have that discussion about whether New Zealand should actually have a constitution, because that then brings into the whole question of enshrining the treaty as the foundation document of the country, which would then avoid the sort of debacles that David Seymour's gone down.
Speaking of David Seymour.
So anyway, that's me.
Speaking of David Seymour, a few weeks ago, he made it very clear that they weren't interested in trying to ban the swastika. And he said at those times, Bill of Rights issues, the ability to, profess your right for displaying what you want to do. I'm sure within the community, you guys saw that and went, hey, hang on, don't all of these adhere to the gang patch? Can't we now use what he said would break laws against him and this other thing he's trying to do? Do you know what I mean? I
think that, for myself, I'm not particularly interested in the one or the other. What I'm interested in is what's the problem here? What is it that we're actually trying to fix, right?
Yeah.
So is it gang membership? Is it gang behavior? Or is it both? So what are the tools to do that, right? And I'm not sure whether you can ban all sorts of things, whether that actually addresses the core issue. So we know that last week the Prime Minister made a big apology in Parliament for the people that were the victims of state care, right?
Yeah.
That is the very genesis of where gangs come from.
100%.
And so you've now down to the third to fourth generation. So that basically that apology is hollow, because we're now going down the path where we continue to re-victimize the victims. That's where gangs started from, as I articulated in your previous show, where you look at the whakapapa going back to 1954, the Mason-Garb report, the requirement for tough on crime, and so forth and so forth. Because we've never really addressed the issue of people that have been heavily traumatized by the state and institutionalized. These people have gone on to have their own identity because they've actually had their real identity stripped away from them because of state care, and a whole new identity implanted into them, which is the identity of violence and the identity of gangs. So the thing is, you can ban this and you can ban that, but that is not an answer to the problem that we have. It's about whether the country wants to be honest about the causes of these issues and look at what the real redresses are. That's what I'm actually interested in. So you can ban swastikas, you can ban whatever you like, but banning has never solved any problems in the world.
Yeah. Chewy, mate, jump in.
Yeah, Harry, I just want to talk about a couple of things. You mentioned, like, what problem are they trying to solve? And it seems to be that the problem that they're trying to solve is that someone wearing a gang patch is intimidating. So now they can't wear their gang patch. Are they not intimidating anymore?
I think the thing is, like, I don't think, like I've outlined to you before, when you look at the numbers, it doesn't measure up. Gang members do not intimidate people. The mass media does, because it constantly shows the patches and it constantly sensationalizes the stories and the behavior of gangs, right? Like I say, 5.125 million New Zealanders, 8,000 gang members. The reality of it is, you ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a gang member with a patch on in real life?
Yeah, every time I've seen a gang member wearing a patch, it's more of a don't fuck with me sort of thing. Like they're on their own, or they're flying the flag a little bit, but it's not going to stop crime. Like,
well, that's my very point.
Usually, if they're wearing their patches, they're not doing crimes because it's too obvious who's doing it.
And if you think
it seems foolish.
Well, I think if you think patches are intimidating, you want to look at the creative facial tattoos that will come. And you can say take it off all you like, but it ain't coming off. So we're out of the frying pan into the fire, and like I say, what are we trying to fix here?
The other question I have for you, because you might know a little bit more about this than I do. Now, my understanding is the mechanics of this bill is that they haven't described what a gang patch is. They've just named the sort of organizations. Is that correct?
My understanding is that based on their intel, they've got a list of 20-odd groups that they have in that schedule, and if you're affiliated to that group and through their intel, so they interpret who's a gang, what's a gang, who's a gang, and who's a gang member. Not, so it's kind of flawed in that way, because the danger to that is that, and I think these things can easily slip over to the political space. Say we become a group like the Hikoi, can cause government problems. Then what you consider them as a gang, because it's not clear what the criteria that constitutes a gang. And to be honest, there is an international gang researcher that could agree with another one on the definition of gang. It's one of the biggest problems when it comes to gang research, comes to gang legislation, is It's all in the person that's writing that defines what a gang is.
Yeah. So I think of Destiny Church's little cosplay gang. Like the vests that they're wearing, they meet all the criteria of what I think of a gang patch is. Top and lower rockers, logo in the middle, all of that sort of thing. But they're not on the list.
I think, Chewy,
it's identical.
But I think, Chewy, one of the criteria is that they say is criminal activity. And whilst we could get into a defamatory conversation now about criminal activity from our Destiny Church, but that might be part of the difference. You know, there's also lots of guys who are in their 60s and 70s and have always wanted a Harley and have just decided they've been able to buy it now, and they wear kind of faux patchy type things for their
like the
clubs.
Ulysses Club and stuff like that. But that to my mind is what makes it laughable, is that you could hold up a Mongrel Mob patched vest and a Ulysses Club vest, and different logo, but it looks the same. So what makes this visibly criminal and this one not?
Do you know what's a better question? Sorry, Cherry, to tell you got a better question. Is what makes this one, this Mongrel Mob one or whatever, intimidating and the Ulysses one not? Because that's what it's about. What makes one intimidating and the other one not intimidating? I've got a question as well, Chewy, and it's based on something you said. I mean, Harry, based on something you said, Chewy, is what problem are they trying to solve? I think the problem they're trying to solve is the appearance of being tough on crime. And I think we probably played this before, but it's probably appropriate to play now. 2.5 years ago, when both of us look about 40 years frickin' younger, we spoke to Chester Burrows, who was the Minister for Police in a national government. He was also one of the archetypes of the gang patch ban in Whanganui. And this is what he said about that law. But I'm just trying to reflect this idea of banning gang patches as, quote, a big headline. In other words, it gets the media and the people talking, but it has a negligible impact on crime. That's what you're quoted to have said in the Stuff article.
I mean, as far as as far as that sort of strategy or policy goes, it does have a negligible impact, and it could, of course, have a negative impact, because if everyone takes their patches off, you don't know who's who in the zoo.
Yeah,
so, you don't know
so that goes on. But the point he made was it doesn't make any difference. They've tried this, they've done this, it failed. It doesn't make any difference, and they're doing it again, Harry.
I think the problem that they're trying to fix is that the whole mantra of tough on crime is a vote winner. You know, you rely on generating a moral panic, and then the panacea to that moral panic is the tough on crime. This happens over and over again. And then the hidden agenda behind all this is private prisons, right? Yeah. If you have a look at every national government the last couple of decades, they've promoted private prisons. So what we have now, the prison system is already overfull. So you bring in more legislation that will capture people that will end up in prison, and then voila, the answer is private and public partnerships or whatever. So there's those agendas that is the problem that they are trying to fix. They're not really interested in fixing the social problems, because they need the social problems to create this concern and this, what I call it, the moral panic. And then you give the answer, which feeds in private enterprise and international consortiums that will come in the industry of misery.
What's going to happen tomorrow? Do you expect to see guys not wearing their gang patches at all?
Look, tomorrow the sun will shine and the sky won't fall down. Who knows? Let's wait and see. I've been told by various police commanders that the minister has given instructions to go hard for the first 3 months. So they've got the gang squads, they're out there. It's sort of like, is there a problem? No, there isn't. We'll create one, right? So we ban patches, then we have this police squad that will go out to find them, and then we can say, hurrah, we're successful, we're tough on crime and we're fixing it. Well, if you never pass the law, there'd be no need for the gang squad to go around bloody ganging up on gangs. Who knows? To me, it's the last thing on my mind, the last thing that I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is this cohort of people, this community of people that is completely ignored, and the trauma goes on intergenerationally. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always had a question. This is a bit of a flippant question, and there's probably no answer to it. But if one of the gangs kind of turned their patch into more like a piece of merch and sold it, and so then there was heaps of people wearing it because it was a piece of merchandise, what would happen? I'm not saying that's going to happen or should happen or whatever. What would happen then if it's no longer a gang patch, but kids are wearing them all over the place because it's the latest merch?
Well, Wish and AliExpress, they already sell gang patches and gang T-shirts. So we don't even have copyright on our own branding. So I hope the government prosecute Wish and my fellow Chinese companies. It's not like it hasn't been done. I mean, there's this variety of regalia that support your local chapter of whatever gang. That's it's not new. It's all been traversed before. And hey, if you can make $1 out of your logo, good on you. But for me, what needs to change, is a pattern of behavior that people have been caught into the space. They're basically creations of the state. The state have a responsibility to address that problem, of which no government has been keen to do. Like the reality of it is, if Labor gets the next time, I can't see Labor wanting to undo this legislation. You can see already they're competing for who's the toughest on crime. You only have to listen to the spokesman for police and Hipkins. We can see now going to the next election, there's going to be a huge competition between the two major parties, who's the toughest on crime. And it's, we've got to get away from this tough on crime and think about how to be sensible on crime, and we just nowhere near that at the moment,
Yeah. Don't worry, Harry. We're doing the best we can to try and help Labor see the light. So we're trying to do it. Any other questions before we head off, Chewy, before we let Harry go?
I just want to say, I think you're absolutely right. And a cynical man might sit here and go, is this National setting a hand grenade for Labor when they lose? Because going into an election and saying we're going to get rid of the gang patch law is just playing into their hands. So then they'll have to leave it alone. Yeah.
Well, you can see that even before the last election, the Minister of Police came in with all those search warrants and all the rest of it. So the competition arguably was actually started by Labor, under attack by National. The previous Minister of Police, who was absolutely woeful, and then you had another ex-police policy manager who's now the spokesman on police, come in with this new warrant where you can actually have an open-ended warrant for a couple of weeks where you can just walk into homes, search cars and all the rest of it. So the competition arguably was actually started by Labor. And in all honesty, I can't see Labor, if they were to take office, that would undo this legislation. So, but the sad thing, like I say, is that the discussion we should be having is what's sensible on crime, rather than this whole rhetoric of tough on crime. Smart on crime would be a better mantra.
Yeah, and it will be fascinating to see when there's the next tangi and there's 1,000 patched members at the tangi, what actually this government forces the police to do or not do, as the case may be.
Well, there's one tomorrow in Hawke's Bay.
Oh, there you go. So all eyes on Hawke's Bay tomorrow.
Hey, before we let you go, Harry, we do have a question from one of our viewers, if you're happy to field it.
Yeah, give it a go.
Please ask Harry if he would ever run for Parliament.
I would probably run from Parliament. But, to be honest, I've never considered myself to be a runner. So who knows? if there's enough people interested in putting me up, yeah, why not? I can tear up bits of paper. I can't.
If you did and got in, Christopher Luxon would have to eventually talk to you. That could be a plus.
You're hired under the speaker.
Hey, Harry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Always is to have you on. Thank you so much for coming in tonight and having a bit of a chat with us. We are sorry if we interrupted any of your table tennis happenings.
It's all good, bro. We've got a game, remember, at some point.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played for 20 years. I was a bit of a gun when I was back there, though, but I haven't played for a while. But I'm down.
I hadn't played for 30 odd years, and I started five years ago.
Nice. All right. Well, stay in touch. You know where we are. I know where you is, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Harry.
Bye.
Cheers, mate.
All the best. We could live stream it, Chewy. We could live stream it. We could have big stakes and live stream the game or something.
Pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view, yeah.